Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Abstract Essay, where ideas take shape, thoughts find depth, and every conversation explores the art of thinking beyond the obvious. And today I have my special guest. One of her advocacy, health is the fuel for creating magical life. Join me, says this amazing, well, as a podcast community, is a fellow podcaster too, no other than Miss Magic Barclay. Welcome, Miss Magic, and can you please introduce more about yourself that I missed?
Sure. Thank you for having me, Daniel. It's so great to be here talking to your listeners. Well, about me, I'm living in Australia. We're currently going into spring, and I try and create a magical life every day. And the reason I do that is because I faced my own mortality, and that is enough to bring you to a screaming halt to reassess your whole life. And so that's exactly what I did. I had to look at my health and why I wasn't being fueled into a magical life every day. And so I've addressed that and now teach my clients to do the same.
So, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Miss Magic Barclay. Thank you. And today, let's talk about the creating a magical and healthful life. The
Let's
ti-
do that.
let's do this. The magical and helpful. How do you personally define a magical life, and how is that different from just healthy and happy?
Magical means it lights you up from inside. And you know what? Not every day is going to feel magical. That's just not how life goes. But if you strive so that the things that are important to you are in your life every day, then you will create your magical life. For me, it's my family, it's nature. I live here on a farm and I've got animals right outside my window as we're talking. And that fuels my magical life for me. So it's understanding what's important to you and having that in your life every single day, as opposed to a happy life where you're kind of, I mean, things are great, but you're just going along. You don't have those things that are key to your magical life around you all the time. So that's the slight difference there. Having a healthy life is part of having a magical life as well, because we've all heard that health is your wealth, right? So,
Yes.
yeah, when you're healthy, you're going to have more of those magical days. And I think as a humanity, we've lost that excitement that we have when we're children, where everything is fantastic and exciting and new. And I think we need to find that now as adults.
In your philosophy, Miss Magic, what is the absolute bedrock, the non negotiable element upon which healthful and magical life is built?
Look, for me, it's a connection to nature, whether it's through walking, whether it's through being around animals, or whether it's through medicine that comes from nature. We really need that connection to nature in our lives. And I think we've lost that with allopathic medicine. We're so used to, pop a pill, do this, do that. We forget that most of that comes from plants. That knowledge comes from natural things. And we really need to connect. We need to be grounding as well. So connecting with the earth because we are of the earth. And I know I sound a bit like a hippie here, but, bear with me. We really need to reconnect. We live in lives where, we've got lights around us and electricity. I'm sitting here now at my desk. I've got lights, I've got my microphone, my computer, but I can see right outside my window and I can see nature. And, that inspires me to talk to you now. So we really need to take some of the man made convenient things not so much out of our lives, but take them back a step and really put what comes naturally first.
What comes naturally for sure. And Miss Magic, tell us, many feel they must sacrifice their well being to be a good role model for their family. How do you break the cycle, and how or show that caring for yourself is that the first step to caring for them?
Look, the biggest thing that we can do for our families to be a good role model is to care for ourselves. You know, there's the old saying, you can't pour from an empty cup. And, you know, I keep referring back to us when we're children. When we're children, we put ourselves first. We're very egotistical, very egocentric. And life is good, right? I'm not saying as an adult be egocentric. What I'm saying is put yourself first, fill your own cup, and then you can help the others. And by doing that, by looking after yourself, you are being a good role model because you're telling your family, do not ever put yourself last. You must look after your health. You must look after your happiness. And this is not happiness at the expense of anyone else. This is happiness to boost everyone else. And so, as a role model, you know, you're killing yourself 9 to 5 or whatever you're doing in your job to try and show them that you care for them. But you're actually not showing them that you care for yourself. And that is the biggest lesson we can give our families.
Yes, people, you need to care yourself first before others. And Miss Magic, helpful often starts with food. How can we make nutritious eating a joyful, connecting family activity instead of a chore or a source of conflict?
Sure. So I live with my 2 sons. They're young adults now. They have their own house on the property. And we get together every night for dinner. And very rarely are we having takeaways. We're cooking things from scratch, usually from our garden as well. But that is part of our bonding time. So, you know, bonding with your family and caring for your family's health around mealtime starts with menu planning. Everyone has a say. You plan your menu, you do your shopping, say once a week or once or 2 weeks, depending on your time availability. And you start by creating the discussion around food. Now, when it comes to having our menu, I'll give you an example. Yesterday, we cooked a lasagna. So we
Yes.
made the pasta, we made the bolognese sauce, all the veggies from that came from our garden. The meat came from a local farmer, so we know what's in it. And we made our bechamel sauce. And so we created this lasagna that's healthy, that took hours to prepare as a family. And we enjoyed it as a family. So, you know, one meal became a day's experience and it was worth it and it fueled our family.
It's worth it, people, for a banding for a family just to have a simple making a delicious food. In a hyper connected world, what does creating a magical boundary with technology look like to protect your family's time and attention?
Look, for us, you know, we use technology. Obviously, my business is online. So it's a matter of putting boundaries in place. And those boundaries are when we're working online or when we're watching TV or whatever, that is just that time. It doesn't take over our time. My boys are very addicted to computer games, but they know that every half hour they have to get out, walk around the farm, do something. So we've put those boundaries in place so that our lives are not controlled by technology. For myself, I schedule my times with my clients, I schedule my podcasts, I schedule, you know, everything that I need to do online. And once that's done, the computer's off. I'm not sitting here just scrolling endlessly. I'm not just watching YouTubes or whatever. I'm out doing things because we have set very clear, firm boundaries.
Boundaries, boundaries indeed is very important, people. You need to set the boundaries. Very important for success. What's the difference between a routine and a ritual? And can you share an example of a simple family ritual that foster both connection, and well being?
Sure. So routine is something that you schedule. Routine, say my morning routine is something that's a non-negotiable for me. I get certain things done every morning to start my day, no matter what time of day I'm getting up. And that's really important. But a ritual is something that you can create with emotion, you can share with your family. It has a bonding connection note to it. A ritual is something that you do not only to get things done, but to be fully immersed and fully involved emotionally and physically. Whereas a routine is just something you're physically going through. Now, both are important to connect with your loved ones, with your family, with yourself, but you need to understand the difference. A routine is a checklist of things that you do, and a ritual is something that you're more emotionally invested into.
Miss Magic, how does the way we talk to ourselves internally, especially after a mistake, impact our ability to be a positive role model for our children?
Look, we make things mean things. And when we speak to ourselves internally in a negative light, our body will make it mean something. So the more you say something like an I am statement that's negative, the more your body will match you there. And that's actually going to affect your energy and your flow through your whole day. We need to stop putting too much meaning on things, and we need to look at more positive self talk. So, someone might say, I am fat. That's a negative statement. Your body will match you, your energy will match you, and your day will match you. What they might say is, I'm not quite at my goal weight, but I'm getting there. And that's very, very different. So, your body again will match you. It will scan what you're saying to yourself and it will say, well, there's nothing negative there. So that's okay. I'm not going to, get unwell. I'm not going to get unhappy. And I can just keep going.
Yes, keep going, people. Keep going and implement the things that you want to implement, especially if you want to be healthy. How does practicing self forgiveness for our imperfect parenting moments actually make us a stronger, more relatable, and ultimately better for a role model?
Look, we all make mistakes. There's no manual that you get given with a set of instructions that are concise and clear when you have a child. So, give yourself a break there. Parenting is a roller coaster, and sometimes you need to just, put your safety bar on and cling on and enjoy the ride. But when we make mistakes, we need to recognize those and we need to say, do you know what, that wasn't quite correct the way I did something. And so now here's how I can do this the next time. As I said, my boys are now young adults, they live here on the farm, and I make mistakes. And when I realize I've made mistakes, I will say to them, do you know what I did or what I said wasn't quite correct? Here's why it wasn't correct. I'm really sorry, but I'm learning as I go. And when you're parents, maybe use this as a teaching moment and take accountability when you make mistakes, but don't let it completely bring you to a grinding halt because there is no manual to go by. And sometimes we are, as parents, flying by the seat of our pants. So we need to recognize that mistakes happen, but we need to be accountable, we need to make the change, and we need to use it as a teaching moment.
Miss Magic, what is a simple exercise parent can do to identify the core values and to start aligning their daily life and decision with them?
Look, having a discussion about core values and what they are with your kids and with yourself is very, very important. As I said, my core values are family and nature. They're my non-negotiables. And so having that discussion, no matter what age your kids are, you can start young, you can start when they're teenagers, or you can start when they're young adults. But having the discussion of what is a core value? What are your core values? Why are they core values to you? And how are you going to include them in your daily life? That is super, super important. And I think we don't have these discussions as parents, and perhaps we really, really need to say, what makes you you? Because we don't want our kids aimlessly going through life, not understanding what makes them tick.
Yes, for sure. And how does the way we talk to ourselves internally, especially after a mistakes, or impact our ability to be a positive role model for our children?
Look, it's again acknowledging that you've made a mistake. And it's again acknowledging that nobody's perfect. I mean, if everyone was perfect, what would we all talk about? It's
Yes.
just no one's perfect. It's just the way it is. So acknowledging mistakes, maybe not reinforcing it as a negative to yourself. We discussed what negative self talk can do to you, and your body will match it. But really just acknowledging it and going, I'm learning. My grandfather died in his 80s, and something he said to me, not too long before his passing, was, I'm still learning. And he was a man that had a lot of life experience, and he wanted me as a child to understand and comprehend that every day is a lesson. And so that's really, really important that we teach ourselves that every day is a lesson, and we teach it to our kids, because we are always learning. We are sponges soaking up information.
What does a truly sustainable and non-negotiable self-care practice look like for a busy parent that goes beyond just occasional bubble bath?
Look, your self-care routine can be, any length. So for me, mine is getting up, I have a shower, I have a walk. Uh, Prior to that, I'll do a sauna. So I've got all my things in the morning that I do. Now, if I don't have time for that, I don't beat myself up about it. I make sure that I have at least some self-care time during my day. So, for example, yesterday I didn't have time for my walk, my sauna, all of that kind of thing. What I made sure I did was I went out into the paddock and I sat there and I started reading a book in the middle of the day. And I had animals around me. I had my cat walking around on her leash. And that was my time to reset and refocus. And so we need to do that. It doesn't have to be a really long scheduled routine. It needs to be something that you acknowledge as time for yourself, and you need to teach your family to do that too.
Hmm. Yes, for sure. So, Miss Magic, have you seen a tangible example where a parent's decision to prioritize their own well being created a positive ripple effect, changing the entire family's dynamic?
Look, I definitely have. I have a very close friend. She started really focusing on her healthcare and on her daily routines and on really reconnecting with her family. And when her daughter had a child, she was there and being supportive, because she'd learnt to care for herself. So she'd done that, gone in to help the daughter have the baby. And so now the daughter is parenting in a happy, healthy way and creating her magical life. And so my friend actually turned around and said, had you not taught me that I was important, I could not have taught her that she is important. And now she's teaching her child that she is important. So, it's a ripple effect. It does happen, and it has to start with you.
Definitely start with us. For a parent listening who feels overwhelmed and far from this ideal, what is one tiny 5 minutes first step they can take today to start moving toward a more magical and helpful life?
One 5-minute step you can take to create your magical life is look at your calendar and look at how busy you are. And then ask yourself, is it real busy? Is it intentional busy? Or is it just busy for the sake of being busy? And we all do it. And so it's really important that you look at your calendar and you see how much time you have for you. and that you create that time. Now, when I'm booking out my calendar, I will book out 2 or 3 hours and it just says health. So my clients can see my calendar and they see a time I'm not available. They can't book me and it just says health. That is my time to make sure that I've checked in with myself and I've refocused my day and that I'm doing something for me, whether it's going for a walk out on the farm or whether it's cooking with my kids. That is my not negotiable time. And so you need to make sure that you do that.
Yes, definitely. And how do you know you're on the right track, Miss Magic? What are the signs, big or small, that indicate that you're successfully creating a life for yourself and your family?
Do you know what? Your health will really reflect this and your happiness will reflect this. So when you really do this for yourself, you will see that there's a lot less dips in how you're feeling, a lot less dips in your health. Things will become more sustainable. You will be creating a higher plateau, so a higher normal, and you will really notice this every day.
Yes, definitely. And one more, Miss Magic. Is creating this kind of life is a solo journey, or how important is to curate a community or village that supports this vision?
It's really important to create your village. And so the people around you, their energy, how they're feeling about themselves and what they're doing for themselves will certainly flow on and affect you. So it's really, really important to surround yourself with people that are on the same quest, that really want to create a magical life, that don't want to sit there and just be victims and complain about everything, that they actually want to take charge of their lives and do things, putting themselves first and creating that healthy community. That is super, super important. You know, there's another old saying, your vibe attracts your tribe. So, you know, you need to be attracting a tribe that want to create a great life every single day.
Miss Magic, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please to listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too. Comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast, Law 101 and Mental Health 101 Love Letters in third season, and my Movie 101 Review, Music 101 in fourth season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its fifth season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Miss Magic, if you could leave our listeners or viewers with one empowering belief or mantra to carry with them this week, what would it be?
It's an I am statement and it's nice and short and simple, and it is I am enough. You don't have to make yourself more for other people. I am enough.
I am enough for sure. And that is a great mantra, Miss Magic. And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your podcast, your advocacy, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Everything that we do is available on our website, www.holisticnaturalhealth.com.au.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Magic Barclay, because if you support her, for sure, more and more empowering episodes of the podcast, more and more empowering advocacy to come. So, Miss Magic, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
More to come, people. See you soon.